main heating control, programmer, no room thermostat, very poor.
Very poor, yeah. Now, the idea of any heating system is it should be controllable. And the more controllable it is, the more you are responsible for heating a home or not heating it when there's nobody there. So a programmer, you can set it to come on and go off whenever you want, 3 or 4 or 5 times a day if you want. But that just will control the operation of the boiler itself. It doesn't necessarily control the temperature of each room. So every room should have a thermostat, ideally, either with a thermostat on every radiator or some kind of thermostat in each room. And if you don't have it, the system is considered to be very poor in efficiency.
Inefficient, yes, that's correct.
All right, so ideally, you have a programmable boiler with room thermostats or individual radiator thermostats, TRVs they're called, thermostatically controlled valves. You know? And without that, well, it's very inefficient because they're uncontrollable. They just okay.
Yeah, I believe also that's in the rating. That's can increase a lot the rating, the main heating control. Yeah, that's a major thing if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and again, it might only be 3 or 4 points on the heating system, but it might drop you down to from a C to a D or from a D to an E. Just depends where it is, you know. Okay. I mean, the EPC you've shown there, you're in a C, but you're a 77, was it? I forget what it was now.
72, 77.
77. So it doesn't take a few extra points to get to drop you down, you know. And it might be that lack of control in the thermostats. Okay.
77. Okay, yeah. So that can get you into a D if you drop 8 points, you mean?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Hot water.
Hot water, generally, if it's working from the main system itself, you know, like a combi boiler, or even if you've got hot water storage, as long as it works off the main heating system, it's considered better than having a separate heating system for your hot water. You know, like
what is the other alternative? Main system from the boiler or other ways?
Yeah, you can have if you've got a hot water tank, for instance, and you get your hot water from the main system, rather than a separate heating system, electrical heating system, like anything that doesn't work off the main boiler system is considered worse, you know. So anything working off the main system is better. If you have an immersion heater, it's considered worse.
Okay, that's why in this one the rating shows good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Lighting.
Okay. Now lighting is this is very interesting. You've got low energy lighting in 14% of the fixed outlets. Okay. Which is considered very poor, but I'll give you an example, a typical example of a typical house. If we change every single light bulb from the old incandescent type into an LED type, it would only make 1 point difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
1 point.
Yeah. Sometimes it's crucial, but it's not much. That's for sure. Yeah.
Energy saving is hardly worth it. You know, would you spend 50 quid on light bulbs if it's going to give you 1 point difference?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't. Okay. So roofs. Now we've got flat roofs, pitch roofs. We've got roofs with a dwelling above, which would be a floor. And again, they keep increasing the thickness of insulation to roofs in general, whether it be a flat roof or a pitched roof. Back in the day, back in 1986, I think it was, they changed the thickness of insulation from 50 mil to 150 mil back in 1986. And we, you know, even surveyors then thought, wow, this is crazy, you know, and now it's doubled to 300 mil. And a month ago, it's increased again because they've changed the building regulations again. You know, it's now 400.
400?
Yeah, of mineral fiber anyway, you know. But what they found was that over the years, yeah, you can increase the thickness and depth of the insulation, but unless you put cross ventilation over the top of it, you're going to suffer from condensation, which defeats the object of putting insulation in there.
Yeah, correct. We can talk later on also about the expenses, how much these things cost, because we show later on all these different sizes of insulation.
So basically, it's not just a question of increasing the thickness of insulation, it's also having the knowledge to prevent condensation, you know.
Okay.
They weren't aware of back in the day, you know, 30 odd years ago, 40 years ago, they weren't aware of it.
Yeah.
And the same with the floor insulation. If there's an unheated space beneath your floor, you could have, like you've got a first floor flat, I believe, yeah? There could be a shop underneath it. There could be a garage underneath it. It could be an unheated space underneath it. Or it could be a heated space underneath it.
Yeah.
So obviously, if there's an unheated space underneath it, you need insulation in the first floor.
Yeah.
But if you've got a ground floor flat, for instance, in an old building, and it's got a solid concrete floor, it won't have any insulation in the floor.
Yeah.
Further down in that EPC, it will comment about recommending additional insulation in the floor, which sometimes means digging up, you know, 100 mil of concrete plus to put 100 mil of insulation back in its place. And you're talking about thousands of pounds to save 20 quid a year or something, you know? Because only 10%.
I do wonder if later on landlord will be forced to do things like that in order to increase the rating, because that will be the only option.
This is what the government wants. I think they're trying to make out that they can force certainly landlords to do these changes, and which is why landlords are just selling up. It's not worth their while.
But just correct me if I'm wrong, in order to increase the rating of the floor, that means opening up the floor and putting insulation in between each one of the beams? That's crazy.
Well, there's all different types of floors. You know, you were talking about a suspended timber floor. That's fairly easy, or easier. You take up the floorboards and you put insulation between the floor joists. And then you put the floorboards back.
That's also expensive.
Well, of course.
Yeah, very expensive. That's what I'm referring to.
That's the cheapest option. But you then have to ensure that there's cross ventilation underneath the insulation. Otherwise, you get condensation and mold.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Yeah.
That's on a timber floor. When you get an old, 100-year-old concrete floor, and you know, to dig up a concrete floor to put in insulation, it costs thousands of pounds.
Yeah, it's crazy, huh? Okay.
And only 10% of your heat is lost through the floor.
Yeah.
So it's just not economic to do it.
Yeah.
And if you do it, how many points will it give you? Not very many.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, should we move on? Secondary heating, what does that mean?
Okay, so secondary heating means anything in addition to the main heating, which hopefully is a gas boiler. Okay, so it could be open coal fires, it could be freestanding electric heaters, it could be air conditioned units, that type of thing.
Okay.
You just top up your main heating. Okay,
that has to be attached to the house.
Yeah.
An appliance that has to be attached to the house.
Yeah, it's going to be fixed rather than freestanding. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that's something I learned from you. Primary energy use. Primary energy use for this property is 130 kilowatts per hour, hour per square meter. Can you explain a little bit about that?
That's quite good, actually.
Yeah.
So
what does it mean, actually, 130 kilowatts?
Yeah, I mean, that's very good.
Very good, yes.
So it's obvious, I would say, without looking at the property, it's got double glazed windows, it's got insulation. Again, it's a mid-terrace flat, I believe you said?
Yes, no, it's not a mid-terrace flat, it's a mid-floor flat.
Mid-floor, so you've got properties above it and below it and to the side of it, yeah?
Yeah.
So there is no heat loss perimeter, really, because all the way around it, you have rooms that are heated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you can assume that, generally speaking, the rooms either side of your flat are also contributing heat towards your flat. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's very low.
Does it show basically the age of the boiler in some sense also?
Yeah, again, the efficiency of any type of boiler reduces over the years. And again, as a rough example, a modern gas boiler is, say, 95% efficient, but after 10 years, it might drop down to 70% efficiency. Okay, so that's all built into the program. They work it out. The program works it out. Yeah.
So what will be the range of a non-primary use, primary energy use, which is considered as worse or bad, really bad?
Well, the higher you go, the worse it is,
So can it reach to 1,000? Can it reach to 2,000?
Well, if you got a house in band F, for instance, where it's got some heating, and basically you're heating an open space and you're just wasting it, it's might as well open the windows, in midwinter, crank the heating up as high as it would go and open the windows and the doors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, what would be the range of 130 kilowatts? I think the highest I ever seen was 580, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, additional information. What is this section?
Okay, so what they're saying here, the dwelling itself has access issues to insert cavity wall insulation. Now that would be something that the energy assessor would type into the additional notes. Okay, he might say you can't get to it because it's a mid-terrace, it's got cavity wall, the party walls are cavity walls, and we can't get access to the party walls. Okay, or there's a building built up against it, which means we can't get to the cavity wall to install cavity wall insulation, something like that.
Yeah.
And he would have to back it up with a photograph to explain what he means. Okay.
That will be in the system, but not in the EPC register.
Yeah, you'd have to ring up the inspector to get details on that one.
Okay. All right, environmental impact of this property.
Yeah. So the impact rating is a B. It has a potential to be B.
Okay.
You can't really change it because it's quite efficient.
It doesn't show here. This is the potential.
But that's the EPC. That's the heat loss.
Yeah, some of them shows the environmental as well.
This is the environmental impact.
Yeah.
It's basically saying the same as the EPC. There's not a lot you can do to change it.
Does it matter for an investor, the environmental aspect of it with regards to expenses?
As an investor, I wouldn't worry too much about that unless you were a green freak, save the world sort of thing. I want to put less carbon dioxide into the air, or whatever. As an investor, I wouldn't. I'd be more concerned with the EPC rating rather than the environmental impact rating. Okay.
Yeah.
This particular property, nothing changes.
Yeah.
Because it's very, very
good. Yeah.
You know?
You should have chosen a problematic EPC, I guess. For this one.
Yeah. Sometimes you go from. I mean, this is not your typical sort of EPC, to be honest. You know.
Okay.
And there normally it's changes that can be done, and it's things like, well, if you save energy, you'll reduce the impact on the property, you'll reduce the impact on the environment. You know, they're all tied together.
Is there anything you would like to add with regards to an average household produces? What does it mean?
Again, 6 tons is nothing because you've got a very efficient property. It produces 1.4 tons of CO2, and you can get it down to 1.2 tons. Wow, you know.
Okay.
It's nothing, you know.
Nothing, okay. That's good for environment, right?
Very good, very good.
Excellent, okay. Anything else with regards to that? Okay.
I would say that if you looked into the cost of improving that impact by what was it, 1%, 10%, it would be uneconomic to do it.
Yeah, that's why I always encourage people who are investing in property just to look at it always from the investors' eyes, basically, so to speak, because you have to cost the expenses, and you cannot put any feelings or emotions into it. You have to be very logical and look at the numbers.
Absolutely. You know, if you're an investor that's only interested in the environment, then you're in the wrong game.
Correct. Yeah. It's like when you are doing renovation and you like pink, for example. But if me, as a man, I would never even look at it, you know. So that will be appealing only for a specific amount of people who are interested in that color or that, you know, the way that the property has been renovated. You have to look at it very neutral, like neutral colors as well. Always look at it from to appeal to the biggest amount of audience that will be renting your property. And, you know, time is money. You have to get it rented in the highest number.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, not many people know about EPCs. You know, nobody advertises it. A lot of my clients don't even know they exist, you know, let alone read it and understand it. But as an investor, you should, because if you buy a property to rent for profit, and you know, let's just say round figures, it costs you £100,000 to buy a wreck, but you've got to spend another £50,000 on it to get it from an E to a D. It's not a very good investment.
It's like you bought something for the high spec that is actually, you have to work for it. It means time, it means money, it means, you know, a lot of decisions to be taken if you're going to make it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So the EPC is very useful, whichever way you look at it, but the government, bless them, haven't advertised it enough. There's not enough people. They don't even know what an EPC is, you know, so...
You know, also I'd like to mention, you know, if you go into Zoopla or Rightmove, they always show you like bits of the EPC. They don't actually go, it's just the rating, you know, people don't actually understand sometimes.
Yeah, but they're obliged to tell people what the EPC is.
Yeah, but it's just like the overview.
Otherwise, they wouldn't tell anybody.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. Correct. Okay, so we continue. So basically, this is a section that how to improve the property energy performance. this is how to reach to higher rating, right? So this one shows potential energy rated C. Its C number is the rating is 77. It can reach to potential C 80, and that step one, for example. What does it show us here?
Okay, so we've got an EPC rating of 77 at the moment, yeah?
Yes.
If I remember rightly, it was 77?
It is 77, yes.
And what they're saying is if you change all of your bulbs to LEDs, which would cost you 30 quid, you would save 26 quid in a year, and it would take you up to 79, which I don't believe. Okay.
Basically, increase of 2 points.
Yeah.
For 30. And then again, Clive, does it actually worth it? You know, would you put it, would you not put it, you know, would you get the hassle for it? And it doesn't make change to your EPC. Oh. At the same moment, unless you are really low on your EPC, correct me if I'm wrong, that's worthwhile as an investor to put the money on.
Yeah, I mean, if investing 30 quid, which wouldn't cost, it would cost you a lot more than 30 quid to change all your bulbs to LEDs anyway. If it gave you 2 points and it took you up to the next level, fine. That's the cheapest, most efficient way of getting up to the next level. Okay.
Exactly.
But in my experience, as I said earlier, if you changed every single bulb in a typical house, it would only give you 1 point. Okay. When we're doing these things on site, and the customer or the client says to us, if I did this, Clive, what difference would it make? I've found over the years, changing all your bulbs will give you 1 point. That's it, not 2, 1.
Okay.
And it wouldn't cost you 30 quid, it might cost you 100 quid.
Yeah. We have 10 more minutes, so with regards to, let's move on to step number 2, heating controls.
Yeah. Again, as I said earlier, uncontrolled heating is very, very inefficient. So you put in thermostatic valves or timers or TRVs, anything that controls when the system turns on and when it turns off. When it reaches a certain temperature, it turns itself off. Very, very important, that is.
So that will increase, correct me if I'm wrong, if this is 79, that will increase in 1 point only?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Which
I would have thought that the timer would have increased a lot more. Is that because the property is already at a high potential?
Yeah.
I thought usually the heating controls will increase a lot more, the rating.
Yeah. It should have given you, I mean, I disagree with the bulbs. I think maybe 1, sometimes it makes no difference whatsoever. But heating controls I've normally found they'll make 3 or 4 points difference.
Yeah.
1, you know?
Okay. All right, so that will cost 350 to 450, and the saving per year will be 26. Will increase in 1 point. Okay, let's move on.
So how many years does it take to get your money back?
Yeah, exactly. That's true. Yeah, that's what I usually do. That will be about 17 years, no?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah. Okay, estimated energy use and potential savings, that will be the total, or is it related to, this is basically from these two?
Yeah, just those two. To go from 77 to 80 will cost
51 pounds per year.
100 quid, and it will save you 51 quid a year. So that in 8 years, you get your money back. Is that a good
money back, yeah.
I don't think that's a very good investment, is it?
Well, I guess it depends also. What kind of a situation are you at? The rating, if you do like a general renovation, so you do other things as well. So yeah, it's a matter of calculation. At the end of the day, it's a game of numbers.
If that takes you up to the next level, fine. It's not a bad investment.
Correct. Yeah.
As
All depends, I guess.
Purely as an investment, it's not good business, is it?
Yeah. Okay. Heating use in this property. Can you explain us about that?
Yeah. So they split the heating use into space heating and water heating. Okay. So in this particular property, they're very, very similar. One's perhaps 20% less than the other. Space heating, 2,531 kilowatt hours per year. The water heating, 1,828 kilowatt hours per year. And it will vary. Bigger flats will have more space heating, and it might have the same water heating. Just depends how many. This is an average flat of that particular size. They estimate, it'll be a 2-person flat, for instance.
Yeah.
And it's generic more than anything. It's just a guess. If you've got a family living there with some young kids, the water heating might go up, the space heating might go up. It depends on the use of that building.
Yeah.
All right.
This one, it says the also potential energy saving by installing insulation. The assessor did not find any opportunities to save energy by installing insulation in this property.
Correct. Because
which means it's good. Yeah.
If there's nowhere to add insulation, you can't add insulation.
Oh, okay. I see.
All right. If you're a mid-terrace, you can't add any insulation. End of.
Okay. All right. That is how to contact the assessor and a crediting scheme. That will be the details of the assessor in this case.
Yeah.
Right, and his number. I'll tell you a story about one time. What did I make use of that? I had a place that I could see only the ground floor. It was a retail unit, mixed retail unit, and above there was another big space, and we did not get any access to the upper floor. So what I did, I called up the assessor and I asked him to send me some pictures. And he did. I'm not sure it's allowed, but I was bold enough to do that. And is it actually allowed?
It must be, otherwise he wouldn't have done it.
Okay. And yeah, he sent me the pictures, and I could better assess the property and see if there is any faults there. And I got his personal opinion. So yeah, you can call the assessor.
You can, yes. Most of us are very, very helpful. And if it leads on to get
most of us,
it's more business, isn't it, for us? Potentially more business.
Yeah.
You imagine if this guy didn't help you in the least, would you use him for your EPCs? No, you wouldn't, would you?
So that is the accreditation scheme. That's the company or the scheme it belongs to, correct?
Yeah. Correct, yeah. And there's lots of accreditation schemes. You got NHER, you got Stroma.
Okay. Yeah.
UCMK, Elmhurst. There's lots of them out there.
Yeah. Okay, that's another section here is assessment details. Very important, the date of assessment. It says here March 2013. The EPC register certificate, it's valid only for 10 years.
Correct, yeah.
And it's up to the owner of the property. If you have a management company, they will make sure that if they're running by under the standards, they have to do it in order to be liable for. They have basically to do it under their schemes they belong to. So, but if you're a private owner, you have 10 years, and it's up to you to do so, such as gas certificate, electrical certificate, correct?
Yeah. All the other certificates, yeah. Right.
All right, I think that is it with regards to the EPC. Yeah, is there any other information you think you can add?
Well, generally as a surveyor or as a domestic energy assessor?
Well, basically in regards to EPC register or something that else that you need to pay attention to?
Basically, an EPC is designed to be a tool to advise people of the approximate energy efficiency of any given building. Okay, it's supposed to be easily readable, understandable. Unfortunately, people don't. You know, they don't know.
Yeah.
Most of the time, most of the domestic energy assessors are honest. Sometimes they're not. You know, sometimes they do what we call a drive-by EPC. There's not an awful lot of money in it. I don't do them anymore.
Drive-by EPC, is there something like that? Really?
Yeah,
drive-by EPC? Wow.
They do a drive-by, yeah, what they call a drive-by, and they use stock photographs. You know, they might photograph the outside, but it could be a photograph of anybody's boiler, of anybody's installation, of anybody's lights.
Okay, Clive, so basically we finished with the EPC register certificate, examining it. Just to summarize the subject, is there anything that you would like to add? The only thing I'd like to remind, which I didn't mention during the video, if people can like and subscribe to this channel. And another thing is, if you do have any questions with regards to that, I would like to point to Clive or myself. You can do so in the comments below, and then we can maybe do another video. So, Clive, what else have you got to add to us with regards to EPC register?
Okay, not very much really, Ben. It's generally an EPC, an energy performance certificate. It's intended to be used as a general energy advice piece of paper in an easily understood form, so that even a layperson can look at it and understand what it says. It doesn't often happen because people don't know they exist, and they've not. Do you need a bit of training to understand them? Yeah, a little bit. You need to know a little bit about building construction and insulation and stuff like that. So it tends to be more of the professional people that understand them and understand how to use them for the best effect, which is energy saving, basically. As far as investors are concerned, you can look at it and say, well, if I do this, it's going to cost me that. Is it worth it? Yes or no. If I do that, is it worth it? Yes or no. Can I get a grant for it? Which is, it's another subject in itself, the grant system, you know. But as a tool to assist investors, you have to understand how to read them. Okay,
definitely, yeah. It's part of the due diligence that you're obliged to do as an investor. Yeah.
Correct, yeah. And of course, any property that you buy to rent, you have to comply with it anyway. You know, it's got to be a D at the moment. It's going to go up to a C in 2030, I believe.
E now, I believe. E.
Or 25.
Yeah, you know, and 25, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if as investors we look at it and we say, well, look, in 5 years' time or whatever, I've got to spend X amount of thousands of pounds on this property to be able to continue to rent it. Is it worth my while? And the answer would probably be no, it's not.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, and I mentioned it also before. The question is if the government is going to what kind of a form would the law will pass, and how much of the expenses would actually fall on the investors. So yeah, it's still to be found out, no, later on.
Yeah, and as you know, the government keeps changing their mind. They keep changing these Green Deal schemes, and you know, it's a big carrot and an even bigger stick. You know,
definitely.
And it's something that us as investors we have to be knowledgeable about.
Definitely.
prepare for the worst case scenario, which is they're going to make us make these houses comply. Is it worth my while as an investor? And the way I see things changing and altering is no. You know, I'm going to sell one of my properties at the moment because it's not worth my while. The cost of energy. One of my HMOs, for instance, right? They told me day before yesterday they're almost going to double my bill for energy. Just overnight, doubled.
Yeah, but that's all across the UK. No, everywhere it's the energy bills are going up sky high.
Absolutely, but they're targeting us landlords to begin with. You know, you have to, if you rent it, you've got to make it this.
Yeah,
you have to make it from a D to a C. They want, you know,
tough decisions now. Yeah, for a lot of people.
Yeah, and to be honest, if you've got an old property and half our housing stock is over 100 years old, and the average is a D. And to get it up to a C is going to cost thousands of pounds, especially if you're an E.
Okay?
Yeah. And as investors, I'm going to say no. I'm not going to do it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed that conversation. I learned a lot, and I hope that we're going to meet again for one more session, one more video, that's for sure, because you have also knowledge in building control. I would like to cover that with you. That will be great if we can.
Yeah, there's lots of things we can cover, you know.
So I'll remind our audience if they can like and subscribe again. And if they have any questions, that will be for our next videos. Thank you so much, Clive. It's been a pleasure.